Yo, what up? So there's this little show on the internet called RWBY, and I know what you're probably thinking. That looks nothing like the word you just said. Yeah, it kind of looks like RWBY. It's a really interesting show. It has some unprecedented quality for such a small series. But the second the ball is in their court, they just drop it like it's hot. Weiss, what the fuck was that? And the fan base reflects that perfectly, with one side of the fan base being actively for the show. So actively for the show that they will send death threats to anyone who isn't. Which is weird because the other half of the fan base is just that, but they hate the show. Which is also weird because they're in the fan base. It's like watching a key struggle in Dragon Ball, but instead of fighting for a planet, they're fighting for a show made in Poser. But even so, with all of the disagreements between fans and non-fans, if there's one thing they can all agree on, it's that the Red trailer was one of, if not the greatest trailers ever made. Now why is that? Why is the trailer so good? What makes it tick? What makes it so fantastic? Well, if you see the timestamp, you realize I'm gonna get into that, so shut up. Jesus. So needy, oh my god! So right off the bat, the show is showcasing this very cool thing I like to call Monty Oum. And if you've never heard of him, you're about to. Haloid, Dead Fantasy, Red vs. Blue. This guy is a pristine animator. It's such a tragedy that he ended up perishing at such a young age, but nevertheless, his legacy lives on through this show, through this trailer. And you guys are gonna see just how absolutely insane he was. And if you don't feel motivated to check out the Red trailer, or heck, even more of his projects by the end of it, I consider this video a failure. So without further ado, let's get into this and Monty Oum's legacy.
Why is my name spelled with a Q?
This trailer is honestly really cool. It begins with the Rooster Teeth presents sign, which scatters like rose petals. And that alone has me gushing a little bit, because they made the rooster red and the teeth white. You know, Ruby and Summer's colors, and made it scatter like rose petals. Like, that is so cool. And you will see why in a little bit, but I'ma just chill. Let's get into it. All right. So we see the moon, snow particles falling, and rose petals beginning to swirl into view, with this amazing song sung by Casey Lee Williams playing in the background. Which you guys would totally be listening to right now if I didn't value the back of my cranium. As Ruby stands over a gravestone, we see rose petals flowing out of her. The way that her red pops in this white and dark environment is just beautiful. She feels like an outsider. The entire world around her is such an ethereal, white, and glowing area. It's really just amazing to see how she looks in this. It took them 9 seasons to even come close to looking this good. As she decides to leave the gravestone, we hear the first words of Red Like Roses. And I'm gonna get into this real quick. Now, YouTube is a big fat jerk and is gonna make this tricky to actually showcase, but I'll do my best to explain why this song is amazingly done. So let's go. There's 3 major reasons. Number 1 is just the talented folks who worked on it alone. If Monty Oum's fight scenes were the cake that let this show cook, their music was the icing that made it so delicious. Number 2 is the mystery of it. The lyrics can be interpreted in a plethora of ways. It can be viewed as a lens into the main character of the short, Ruby, with how the lyrics go and match up with nearly every part of the song. Some of the first word, "brings me to the place you rest," happens right after she leaves the gravestone, revealing it to us, the audience. "White is cold and always yearning" occurs as she's walking through the frigid and snowy forest. White and cold. Yes. Black the Beast descends from shadows is said right as the beastly Grimm show up. And the words "Yellow Beauty glows gold" caps off the lyrics of this song as Ruby shows her face for the first time in the trailer. It can all be seen as a variety of events that led Ruby to the fight scene. And truthfully, this is a completely accurate interpretation. But if you have some context on the show, you'll realize The main meaning is actually linked to the 4 characters of the show. Ruby became a huntress due to her mother's death, which is why her death was such a key facet of her life, and why it always brings her back to the place she rests. Weiss, the ice-themed character, is very cold towards people in the beginning of the show, and is always yearning to escape the expectations thrusted onto her by her father. Blake as a character is a faunus in the show, which are typically viewed as beasts compared to humans, and she is descending from shadows to fight for her basic rights. She even has a theme song called From the Shadows. And finally, Yang, whose part is Yellow Beauty Glows Gold. This is clearly showcased as the fact that she has blonde hair and her main color is yellow, and she can fucking get it. It paints a picture for the viewers at the beginning that isn't quite clear, and they have to piece it all together as time goes on. It's like a puzzle. And even if they understand what the verses mean relating to the scene itself, the fact that they have an extra layer to them that doesn't just represent Ruby, but the main cast as a whole, truthfully, that is some nutty symbolism. And guess what? Even with all that symbolism, there's still more on top of it. Number 3, Ruby and Summer Rose. The song is called Red Like Roses, and you only learn what that truly means by the end of an arc in the show, since it had a sequel song named Red Like Roses 2, which unlike this song is heavy metal, rockin' with lyrics about Ruby speaking to her dead mother, Summer Rose. The first lyric of Red Like Roses, the first one, is Red Like Roses fills my dreams and takes me to the place you rest. We understand this is Ruby talking about going to her mother's grave, but the first part of this doesn't make much sense because it's like, oh, is it because their superpower is rose petals? That's probably it. No, you freaking idiot. The second song explains that perfectly. There's a screaming verse of that second song where she goes, "It's your blood that's red like roses." This is clarification. It enlightens anyone viewing it. This is all we needed to hear. This tells us the many dreams Ruby has had, the many times rose petals filled the air, the many times she simply used her power. All were a horrific reminder to this character of what she's lost. And let me tell you this straight up. If I could glean all of this from the lyrics made, and this was the amount of lyrics you made? Yeah, the music's pretty good. Anyway, let's move on back to the scene. So, Ruby's back to walking through the forest, sticking out like a sore thumb, completely out of place and completely alone. Which kind of ties into her creation. RWBY'S, the show, pretty cool in the sense that every character is based off a fairy tale in some way. Goldilocks, Snow White, the Tin Man, Goku, the Monkey King, and who could forget Little Red Riding Hood? She's even got the hood. Oh, and the big bad dwarves. They did a really good job tying the fairy tale metaphor into this character. In fact, they even used the grim type called Beowulfs, even though there's like a bunch of different kinds they could have picked from. There's a fucking elephant, what the? Something else I really adore about this setup is the fact that Grimm, the creatures in this show, are confirmed to be allured and drawn closer to negative emotion, meaning 2 very major things. 1, if they existed in the real world, every Twitter user on the planet would be fucking dead. 2, it shows that Ruby, just like I stated during the song section, is harboring a lot of pain. And just like in the show, she is keeping it all clumped inside of her, eating away at her very soul, which has these Grimm smacking their lips. I gotta say, the cinematography for this scene is also stunning in its own right. Currently, we don't know much about Ruby. Yes, I went into exhaustive detail to talk about her, but in the mind of a viewer, all we know is she visited a grave, and now is surrounded by weird black monsters.
Disgusting black creatures. Get out of my sight.
We haven't even seen her face yet. We lack so much information about her, but the way this scene shows off Ruby, it really sets a ominous tone. She has little to no reaction of the Grimm coming her way, and when they finally attack, the shot frames them as, well, all jumping at her. It's a pretty common shot in action kinds of media, but for this scene, it really makes it look like Ruby is larger than them. She has a more imposing and downright mysterious presence. She practically eclipses each of them. And with that, girl just proceeds to instant transmission. That entire attack they all attempted on her? Nope. You can even hear a little faceplant sound from some of the Grimm because they were not expecting that. By the time they adjust, they finally spot her once more. And at that point, we are blessed with one of the best shots in the show. Ruby finally has the face reveal, and unlike Dream, it went very well. Yeah! This is Ruby Rose, the titular character of the series, based off the beloved fairy tale character Little Red Riding Hood. But I kinda lied to you guys, because she isn't just based off Red Riding Hood. She's also the hunter. And man, this was so straightforward. Yes, it was pretty obvious RWBY wasn't just going to be torn to pieces, but what she was gonna do wasn't too clear either. The way she teleported, the strange rose petals billowing in her trail, people were probably expecting some strange, almost supernatural ability.
Nah.
So that loser's dead, packed up, rip bozo, rest in piss, won't be missed. It's time for you guys to lock in, because this shit's about to go crazy. The other Grimm try to slide for their homeboy as RWBY drops. Man, don't you idiots know what happens when Monty Oum animates a fight scene of a character being outnumbered? Y'all are about to get cooked! Don't run at her, run away! But they don't, and so the massacre begins. Grimm comes in for a slash, he hits him with a Mario and Luigi style counter. I swear I heard the fucking coolest thing about this show. They take gun kickback to a whole new level. It ain't a weakness in this show, it's an advantage. She straight up propels herself into more enemies. Speed lines are going crazy around her as she takes another shot, blows a hole in this Grimm's body. I can see the last meal he had in that damn thing. Rose petals swirl out, a stylish but tragic detail. She's still moving, I'm still going. Rolling forth, she blows the mess out of another Grimm, the kickback of her weapon straight up rocketing her into a backwards roll as she unfurls the rest of Crescent Rose. Hold up! This shit's a scythe?
It's also a customizable, high-impact sniper rifle.
A what?
It's also a gun.
The most iconic weapon in RWBY. Even stick figure animators love it. What's not to love? The concept is sick, the execution is sick, the design is sick, the color is sick, the creativity is sick. This weapon's too sick, there's no cure for this shit, dude! You're not looking at some peculiar specter any longer. No. You're looking at a harbinger of death. How so? Witness the coolest shot in RWBY real quick. This is such a creative use of this weapon, and the many concepts we were just shown moments ago. This single sequence is the trailer. RWBY smiles for the first time in this short. Rose petals overtake the scene, censoring what would have been a waterfall of blood with something both visually cooler and narratively cooler. And once again, this is just Monty Oum's genius firing off on all cylinders. We have all the information to know this can happen, but there's no way in hell we saw it coming. We know it's a scythe, and we know that gun's kickback is able to launch RWBY in various directions. Combining those two tidbits together, we get one of the coolest tricks in the show. She shoots, then the scythe cuts at such an absurd speed from the kickback, it can practically tear through anything. For some reason, after even seeing that, the Grimm are like,
I would win.
and choose to come at her again. Even RWBY's looking like,
You serious?
rotates the gun, the camera's on one side to show her cocking it, it snaps to another to show her slamming it down, she takes aim and starts blasting the Grimm. One eventually breaks through and goes for an attack. Before she's sent to Canada, she slams the weapon once more into the ground and cartwheels on top of it? And while she's chilling there, another Grimm attacks. No worries, she'll just perform the slickest motion ever to evade it, then buckle up like she's on a fucking log flume. Pull the trigger to kill the Grimm in front of her, while propelling herself backwards to dropkick the idiot who just missed. Oh, y'all want more? Bet. Slashes the Grimm in front of her. Monty Oum makes every pose RWBY does look like something out of a comic book. With just a simple slash, she looks unbelievably dynamic. A foot raised, the scythe behind her back. Are you kidding me? And that scythe behind her back isn't just for style points. She moves in to take a slash, cutting through the guy behind her to attack the one up front. Another Grimm comes in after that guy is completely washed. And watch how clean this is. Remember that kickback slash I talked about earlier? We already saw it. We know how it works. Watch how cleanly, swiftly, and elegantly it's animated now. A novice would make that strike look exactly the same. Monty Oum is not a novice. This is unfathomably clean. Look at how big he is compared to RWBY, and how quickly he just crumbles from that next shot. Oh my god. The next Grimm for some reason tries boxing her. RWBY decides to play along, moving on some ultra instinct timing. She catches it around his waist. Uh-oh.
Gotcha, bitch!
They're getting desperate now. They all start rushing her, but she's a massive Spider-Man fan. Look at these flips. Nobody's touching her. And after one of them whiffs, she lunges in for an attack. That's free. That's easy. Completely tearing off his arm. Oh, damn, you're still alive? My bad. Let me just... Then one comes charging in. Once again, she slams it on his head. We've seen this before. We naturally know how this ends, right? 4 times the charm. Well, once again, say it with me. Monty Oum one-ups himself. You didn't say it with me. We are not allowed to see the same attack again, even if it looks only slightly similar, even if it's a different camera angle, even if the animation itself looks different but the move's more or less the same. No, it's a completely different move every time. So she slams it on his head, rolls to the other side of him, backflips on top of him, lines out the shot, and blows both herself and his fucking head into the stratosphere. Monty Oum is insane. The fight's starting to calm a little. I mean, she's in the air. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, they're jumping after her. Oh no, this might be bad for her. RWBY might not be able to combat them all the way up here. They may be able to, oh, never mind. But wait! Guys, I got some bad news. The first strike has finally landed. After that complete, destructive, Doom-style massacre, it's finally happened. RWBY managed to finally get hit. She was finally struck. This one-sided beatdown is looking far less— Did she just block it?! As she skids to a halt, she looks to see a sea of darkness in her wake. Stamina is beginning to burn out. This horde is never ending, and the pain she feels in her heart is just bringing them closer. No matter how hard she tries to forget and move forward, all the light in her mind and heart is fading. Even as time falls away, the pain scars her more than any damage she's endured physically, which is why she decides to stop letting it consume her. RWBY is one person, a simple soul in a sea of death, and she's going to rise above it all. Her mother's demise isn't going to keep her pinned any longer. What her mother has inspired her to do and pushed her to do all her life is going to let her soar, which is why when she loaded that new mag into her weapon, you could be 3 and I think you'd realize it's fucking over. And that was the greatest trailer ever made. I could spend the last part of this video cracking some more jokes, making fun of the RWBY community, making fun of the show, but I don't wanna. 'Cause at the end of the day, it's all great to me. Everything about it. And it's all because of you, Monty. I just want to dedicate 2 final parting words to the legendary Monty Oum. Thank you.